Hi everybody, I'm Jim Skelly and this is the Global Conversation. This is the first of my mini lectures for the fall semester. We started here at Juniata College in Pennsylvania in the United States a couple of weeks ago. And we've been meeting face to face and have had some very interesting conversations to date. There's a great deal going on this autumn. We will have still another cohort of students join us in early October from the Institute for Social and European Studies in Hungary. I want to welcome not only our Juniata students who we've been meeting with, but also those students from the Universidad Veracruzana in Mexico and the students at the Institute for American Universities in Aix-en-Provence in France. Welcome to all of you, and please don't hesitate to get in touch with me or Sadie Lutmer, who is helping to coordinate the course, or Omar Ramakrishnan, who is also co-teaching the course with me here at Juniata College. Let me start today by telling you a couple of things that have been happening. We had a visit last week from Richard Alley, who is one of the key people in the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. Richard Alley gave us a talk about climate change that I think several hundred people there. I have to say he was quite compelling. And the stories he told about the receding ice are quite profound. One of the arguments he made is that the data is there to show that of the 500 or so glaciers, or glaciers as some people call them, the major ones in the world, only 4 are expanding in size. Sometimes climate deniers like to point to these, but the rest of them are receding, and some are receding quite rapidly, worryingly so, I should note. And I will tell you that I just took a look at a video, the documentary done by James Balog called Chasing Ice. Now, Chasing Ice is a very innovative project, and if any of you are able to get a hold of the DVD, I highly recommend it. You might also want to take a look at the trailer. I'll send you a link. I'm going to send you all a note to notify you about this mini lecture and some of the things that I talk about. But let me just say, let me make a note here to keep up with all of these bits and pieces of information. The Chasing Ice video that Balog did with a number of colleagues is really quite extraordinary, because what they've done is to set in place in 3 different parts of our planet time-lapse photography, webcams essentially, that have been recording what's happening with the ice. And you watch that and you say, uh-oh, we're in trouble. And I think there's very little question anymore about whether we are in trouble or not. Richard Alley is going to, at least he said he would, I hope he does, send us a copy of the slideshow that he presented here at Juniata, and I will post that as soon as I receive it from him. You can look him up as well on the website. I'm going to put out some information about it, but I'll send you a link to his biography, and then you can follow his work more carefully. Now, a couple of other things that you want to take a look at right now, and that is that climate change is back in the news, because the scientists have just issued another report. This is the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, of which Richard Alley has been a member. And this is the 5th assessment by the world's leading scientific advisory body on global warming. And it's concluding that at least 95% certainty, it's human activities that have caused most of the Earth's temperature rise since the year 1950. and will continue to do so in the future. That's up from a confidence level of 90% in 2007, the year that the last assessment on what was happening came out. Now, one of the things that you should recognize is, and the group says this, regardless of the erroneous claim that global warming has already stopped, evidence is that once well-known impacts from El Nino, volcanic aerosols, and solar variability are removed from the observation, the warming trend of the ocean atmosphere system is unbroken, and that it will continue potentially towards 4 degrees centigrade unless serious mitigation action is taken. That's an increase of 4 degrees centigrade over the 1990 standard. And here's a quote from that report. That global warming continues unabated over the last decade is confirmed by ocean measurements. 90% of the additional heat that the Earth system absorbs due to the increase in greenhouse gases is stored in the oceans, and the global array of thousands of scientific measurement robots in the oceans proves that they keep heating up at a steady pace. Meanwhile, satellites show that sea levels also keep rising steadily, and of course, this is the issue with the melting of the ice in Greenland, Iceland, and Alaska that James Balog so vividly catalogs in his film Chasing Ice. Now, it could be even worse if, you know, the big issue, for those of you who have not been following this, the big issue is if the Earth continues to heat up, and the permafrost in northern Canada and Siberia starts to melt, underneath that permafrost are various organic materials that will release methane, or methane as it's called in more civilized countries, and that's a joke, 27 times more powerful methane is than CO2, which has been the principal greenhouse gas we've been worrying about. 27 times more. And what scientists worry about is that once that starts to melt and the methane is released into the atmosphere, what will happen is that you won't be able to stop the heating of the Earth, regardless of what efforts you make. So we should be acting now, but of course there are vested interests that are not interested in acting now, as you probably well understand. So something has to happen, and Nicholas Stern, who issued a very interesting economic report, we have it several years ago on the website. Nicholas Stern also in The Guardian has commented about the Intergovernmental Panel report, and here's what he says. Current action is much too weak to reduce emissions by enough to avoid a significant probability of the global average temperature rising by more than 2 degrees centigrade above its pre-industrial level by the end of this century. The Earth has not experienced a global temperature more than 2 degrees centigrade higher than pre-industrial periods since the Pliocene epoch 3 million years ago, when the polar ice caps were much smaller and sea levels were about 20 meters higher than today. Modern humans have only been around for about 250,000 years, so we have no experience of such a climate. And it's so, you know, we want to really be paying attention to this. And if anybody has any doubts about climate change, you can see. I have a very good friend, Ron McMahon, in Boulder, Colorado, who managed with extraordinary efforts to save his house during the floods that occurred there last week. He said to me on the telephone the other day that in a 3-day period, they had 26 inches of rain. That's about 65 or so centimeters. So, you know, it's a lot of rain in 3 days. And I hear, why did it happen? Everybody, he says, is now talking about climate change in Colorado because first they had a drought. The drought left the forests on the hill and mountainsides incredibly dry, like a tinderbox waiting to explode. And of course, they did explode. Massive fires there last year. And after the fires, what do you have? You have an earthen surface that does not absorb the water from the rains. The rains come and they run immediately into rivers and creeks and smaller bodies of water. And it was these that overflowed everywhere and did extraordinary damage. I'll send you some link to some photographs. Extraordinary damage and many, many people killed. And this is in a fairly rich part of the world. So you want to be really paying attention, folks. I mean, this is not to be, we really need to be thinking about this, and I hope we have some very rich discussions during the course of this semester about this. Now, let me say to you that we don't just focus on climate change here. We're also concerned with the linkages with other aspects of the way in which we're living on this planet. Everything's connected. The way we grow our food, our energy use, what's happening to our water systems, all of these things, our consumerism, all of these things are connected to the problems that we face in terms of our continued habitation on planet Earth. I always joke with my students, it seems to me it'll be fairly accurate, I get to leave the planet. You know, I get early release compared to some of you. If you're 20 years of age or 22 years of age, you're likely to be on the planet 60 years from now, certainly 50 years from now, all other things being equal. I'm glad I'm not going to be around. It's going to be a tough time, and it's time to really face into what's going on. And this includes, as I've suggested, all kinds of other ancillary things. There's an interesting article today as well about bananas, sugar, all the kinds of things that we need to be thinking about in terms of, does banana cultivation somehow, is it dangerous to the environment? Most people don't know that the current variety of banana, the Cavendish, is a variety of banana that has become dominant since the last variety was wiped out by a fungus in the early 1950s. That was known as the Gros Michel. Now you have the Cavendish, and guess what's happening to the Cavendish? It's being chased by a fungus as well. And so they spray heavily on banana plantations. I had a student a couple of years ago from Cameroon who worked in a banana plantation, and he said, you know, what happens, of course, is that they fly over, even while we're working in the fields, and spray. And you can watch the birds trying to fly up to get away. And, of course, they drop to the ground dead. So, you know, you want to think about how all of this hooks together. How do we need to change the way we're living on the planet? So take a look at that. Contribute, please, to the course discussions. I'm going to send you a list of other sites that you can check, environmental blogs, etc., for interesting information. When things actually grab your interest, they may actually grab the interest of other students involved in this course. Please post it in the forums for course discussion. Generate discussions. Take on your role as a, quote, teacher in this course as well. We don't think of this course as being structured in the normal way that courses are structured. We consider this to be an experiment in what we call collaborative learning, so that students can, in fact, be part of the teaching apparatus as well as people who are also engaged in learning about the issues that we're dealing with. So please be in touch. I'll be sending you various materials from time to time, and when we get Richard Alley's slideshow up, we'll be sending you information about that as well. But do post, and any questions you have, please send me an email or Sadie Booth there, okay? Hope you do well this week, and all the best.